Good morning, good evening, and hello everyone. My name is Payal Tandon. I will be your host today in this webinar in which we're going to talk about how to build your skills to solve 700 plus level questions in geometry. The skill set that you're going to learn in this session will be applicable to all the sections across quant. So the principles that you're going to learn will be applicable across all sections. Now, we share a lot of content with you so that you are well prepared for the session. So I hope that you all got a chance to go through the concept file on quadrilaterals as well as the process file in quadrilaterals. Again, we'll be talking a whole lot about all of this, and if you haven't as yet gotten a chance to go through that, that's absolutely fine. You have access to these files in your free trial, and as you go through the session, you will understand the relevance of each of these two files and a lot more. Now, every weekend we conduct webinars so that you are well prepared and on your way to that 90th percentile on the GMAT. Like along those lines, next weekend we will be conducting critical reasoning webinar in which Rajat will walk you through how to master the pre-thinking approach and why is the pre-thinking approach so very critical. If you haven't already registered for it, please click on register now button here, and so that you continue to get reminders for the same. Likewise, number properties next Sunday, I will be walking you through a similar process to ACE number properties questions. So definitely register for that session as well. Now, we ask this question as to when you're taking the GMAT so that we get an idea of the population in this class. Now, regardless of whether you're taking the test within the next 15 days or whether you haven't as yet decided your GMAT test date, you will stand to benefit tremendously from this session because of the entire personalization that we offer. Okay, the whole concept of personalization exists so that regardless of where you're at, you understand what is it that you need to focus on, and you have the right tools on the e-GMAT platform to bridge those gaps. Okay, so welcome everyone once again to this session. All right, so I'm going to change the screen here, and let me know when you are able to see skill building session geometry 2.0 on your screen. Please click on yes. Okay, let's get some more folks to click on yes here. All right, perfect. Now you see this Q&A pod down below towards the bottom left hand side. If you have any questions that I may not be able to answer because I'm in a certain flow of the session, feel free to post that question in the Q&A pod. We have Atreya Roy. He is our lead strategy expert as well as a quant expert. He will be able to answer your questions that you ask through the Q&A pod. Now, this session is going to be fairly interactive. I ask lots of questions, so the more you respond to the questions, the better, the more you'll be able to take away from the session. Okay, and I would also suggest to you all to maintain your notes as you are going through this webinar, because you'll be getting a tremendous amount of feedback through this session. Feedback as small as, you know, I need to build this conceptual understanding, to feedback as big as, oh, this is the process skill that I really need to work on. Okay, and towards the end of the session, I will ask you all to put in your key takeaways from this webinar so that you all can see that in the same place. Okay, all right, so without much delay, let's get into this webinar right away. What's the agenda? The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to measure your current ability. For that, what we're going to do is ask you 4 700 plus level questions and see where is it that you're at in terms of solving those questions. Now, these questions are going to pertain to a very specific section of geometry, and that is quadrilaterals. Okay, so that's a very specific section. But again, the key thing is that you will be able to diagnose your ability. You'll be able to figure out where is it that you're at in this particular section. Okay, then you're going to get feedback on your current conceptual ability. And observe very carefully that your current ability and your current conceptual ability are two very different things. Your current ability is built upon conceptual ability along with your ability to apply process skills. So we first figure out what your current ability is in terms of solving GMAT level questions, and then we give you feedback on your conceptual ability. Okay, and then we are going to slowly start building your process skills. And as you're midway in the session, you will start to see some level of improvement. And again, I'm not going to say that you're going to be suddenly be able to solve 700 level questions correctly, but you're going to start seeing what is it that you need to build upon so that you can be skilled enough to solve those difficult questions that you will see in the test. Okay, and you'll get the tools, you'll get the arsenal to be able to build your ability there. And then we'll talk about how does the Expert AI in Quant 2.0 course improve your ability, so that you understand the nuances in the Expert AI that's going to help you get to that 700 plus, I would say 730 plus score, okay, or Q49 plus or Q50, okay. And then we'll continue to improve your process skills. All right, so with that, let's now get into figuring out what your current ability is. Let me give you some pointers here. The first section here, you're going to see 4 questions. The first question, and most of these questions, I believe, are data sufficiency questions, right? The second question is going to be a slight variation of the first one. Okay, so when you see the second question appear, and if you see that, okay, it looks the same, there is a slight variation there. Okay, now we will not be discussing the answers. I will not even tell you the answers to these 4 questions right now, because after I take you through conceptual feedback, and after I try to build your process skills in this session, I'll give you another chance to solve each of these questions. Okay, so I will not be giving you the answers right now, so answer these questions to the best of your ability. Okay, now whenever I post a question here, what I want you to do is click on still solving, because that tells me that how many of you are engaged in solving this question. Okay, so I have about 70 participants in the session right now, so please click on still solving. And I usually don't have a very aggressive time limit. As I see about 50 to 60% of the class putting in their answer, selecting an appropriate answer choice, I then give you a 15 or a 30-second warning, depending upon the level of question and depending upon at what pace I'm actually getting you guys to select an answer choice. Okay, so that's why it's very important for you to click on still solving, because that tells me how many of you are actively engaged in solving the question. So let's get this number to, I would want it to be at 70, but let's try to get this number to 40 here. And while you're doing that, let me ask you this question as well. What is it that you think is the problem that you're facing with geometry as a section? So type in your answers here. Let me reopen this. Yeah. And what is it that you are here to learn? What is your expectation from this webinar? Okay, data sufficiency, understanding the question. All right. Timing. Okay. What else? Concepts. Okay. Approach to solve. That's the circles. If circles will not be covered in this section, but that being said, whatever you learn in this session, as I said, you'll be able to apply to other types of other subsections, and definitely I will guide you as to how you can build your ability to solve circles related questions. There are too many formulas and properties. Okay, how to tackle convoluted questions. Okay, sounds good. You will definitely learn all of this in this session. Okay, so sounds good. Let's end this poll here. So we are all ready for the first question. Let's see how many folks have selected. I still have 36. That's okay. I think we'll get used to clicking on this as we proceed. Okay, so here is your first question. Go ahead and solve it. Last 30 seconds. All right, I'm going to end the poll now. And here comes your next question. But before that, let me get the poll here. Okay, here you go. Please click on still solving and then I'll activate the next question. Okay, let's get some more folks here. All right, here is question number 2, and you can see that the changes are in statement 1, and you can see the highlighted words that have been changed. Last 30 seconds. All right, I'm going to end the poll now. And here is your question number 3. Okay, click on still solving, please. All right. So you see, this is technically fresh question 2, because again, the previous one was a version. That's why you see question 2 here. Go ahead and solve it. Last 30 seconds. All right, I'm going to end the poll now. And here is your last question in this section. Please click on still solving. Yeah, you guys are now getting in the habit of clicking on this. Good. Okay, and here you go. This is your last question in this section. Last 30 seconds. All right, I'm going to end the poll here. So we are done with the first section. Now, how was this experience? What do you guys think right now? Or how do you guys feel right now? We've solved 4 data sufficiency questions based on quadrilaterals. Moderate, half were easy, half difficult, bit exhausted, long questions. Okay, what else? Let me ask you this question. I took guesses for most of them. Okay. Medium difficulty. Well, based on your accuracy as a class for this question, for these 4 questions, all these questions are um, more on the hard, very hard side. Okay. So the accuracy for almost all the questions was less than 40%. Okay. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to tell me that if you what's the problem that you faced while solving these questions. Is it that you don't know the concepts, or you're not able to retrieve appropriate concepts? What's the biggest thing that you face issues with, or that you're not comfortable with data sufficiency questions, it, which means that yes, you know the concepts, but you are not you don't know how to apply them in the context of data sufficiency questions? Or is it that the statements by themselves were so complicated, there was just a whole lot of processing to be done, or something else? Many different elements to think about while solving. Absolutely. Questions seem to be easy, but I did not find the correct approach or thought process. Okay, strategy was not known. Okay, all right. So good. So I'm going to hold off on this one. So I'm going to keep these results with us, and we're going to look at them as we go through this session. So much 1/3 of the class, so again the largest segment says could not process the statements. So very important thing here, that could not process the statements, is that then linked to your ability in geometry, or what is it that you need to do in order to be able to process the statements? What skills do we need to build? Okay, so that's something which we're going to talk about. Then there are folks who are saying that they were not comfortable with the whole context of data sufficiency questions. That is also a very solvable problem. We are going to talk about how to solve that problem. Did not know the concepts, absolutely valid. We are going to, you will next, you're going to get feedback on your conceptual understanding. Now there are some folks who have said other. I'm guessing it is timing constraint. Again, one thing that I will mention to all of you is timing is an artifact of what your skill level is in solving the particular set of questions that's given to you. Okay, so if you are saying that if you had more time, if you got 4 minutes, you would have been able to solve the question, that still doesn't address your ability level. Why is it that you're taking 4 minutes when a person who has higher ability can solve the same question in less than 2 minutes, right? So you always have to ask that question. So it's not that, because if you don't do appropriate causal analysis, you will not be able to fix the right thing in order to solve the problem. Okay, so let's now get into our conceptual related questions, and thank you very much for participating wholeheartedly in this. So these questions are a little bit different from what you are used to seeing. Let me show you the poll first. Okay, you are going to see 2 sets of statements. Okay, this is the first set here, and I'm going to show you the statements here in a bit. What you see, there are 8 statements, total of 7 statements. 8 statements simply says that none of the above is correct. So I want you to read each statement one by one, and then if you think that that statement is correct, then I want you to click on, let's say, 1. When you're reading statement 1, if you think statement 1 is correct, check the box over here for statement 1. If you're reading statement 2 and you think that's correct, then you check the box for statement 2, so on and so forth. Needless to say, if you are selecting any of the statements from 1 through 7, then you will not select statement 8, because you have already said that at least one of these statements is correct. Okay, so go ahead, read each statement carefully, and then select the answers. Okay. Okay, I'm going to end the poll in 20 seconds. All right, and I'm going to show you your next poll. So I'm going to end this. And here is the next set of statements. Again, same drill. Oh, okay, hold on 1 second. Question number 1. Okay, I advanced one slide way too fast. Okay, all right, so here you go. Again, exactly same drill. All right, I'm going to end the poll. Okay, so I apologize. I think the broadcast results was on for the second question. So some of you may have been influenced by the answers that you saw. Is that correct? How many of you got a little bit influenced based on that? So again, take that, take the feed. You'll have to accommodate that with when I give you the feedback. So some of you may have been influenced by it. So be true to yourself as I give you the feedback, because the feedback is going to be based on the answers, based on the answers that you selected. So here is what I want you to do. I'm going to bring back poll number 1 here. Okay, I'm going to broadcast the results now. So count the number of statements that you selected, and obviously do not include statement 2. So count the number of statements that you felt were true, okay, and make a note of that. So let me know when you're done. So clear all answers. Yeah, tell me when you're done counting the number of statements over here for first question that you thought were true. So any number from 0 to 7, okay? That's what I want you to write down. Okay, now let's move on. So basically over here, the correct answer is that none of these statements is correct, which means choice 8 is the correct answer for this one. Okay, so let's now move to the next question. And again, for this question, I apologize. The broadcast results were on. So let's see, where is this one? Yeah. So when you are writing down again the number of statements that you thought were true, make a note of those. Remove the ones that you got influenced looking at the broadcast result, looking at the results of this poll. Okay, be true to yourself here. Again, count the number of statements that you selected. Obviously, do not include statement 8. Any number from 0 to 7 is what I want you to write down. Okay, let me know when you're done here. Clear all answers. Yeah, click on yes when you're done. Okay, sounds good. Now is the feedback time. What I want you to look at is the number of statements that you got correct for question 1 and the number of statements that you got correct for question 2. If the number of statements is 0 for the first one and the number of statements is 7 for the second one, then you belong in group A. So make a note of that. All group A students should have identified that they fall in group A. All the folks who selected 0 statements for the first one and 7 statements for the second one. Okay, so let me also write down here, and I want you to select, if you are in group A, select that choice. Okay, all of those who are in group A, select that. Now next, let's look at group B. If the count of statements for question 1 is 0, 1 or 2, and the count of statements for question 2 is greater than or equal to 3, you belong in group B. Again, select group B accordingly. And all the other folks would obviously belong in group C. So make that final selection. So again, group B, if count of statements is 0, 1 or 2 for the first one, or greater than or equal to 3 for the second one. Okay. Group C, all other combinations. Okay. So I want everyone to make a selection here, and then I'm going to give you the feedback based on this score, based on the group that you all fall in. So good job here. Let's look at the feedback now. If you are in group A, you have good conceptual understanding as it pertains to the concepts relating to quadrilaterals. When you look at the course, when you access Quant 2.0 course, you do not need to review concept files pertaining to quadrilaterals. You can directly move to process skill block so that you understand how is it that you should be applying process skills to solve questions. That's the feedback for group A. So 30% of the class belongs in group A. Next, 36% of the class, that's the largest segment here, there are some gaps in your conceptual understanding. It's not like you don't know any of the concepts. You know some concepts, but there are some gaps in your understanding, or your conceptual understanding is not to that precise level where it should be. For example, you have some idea about the diagonals, a property of diagonals as they pertain to quadrilaterals, but you're not very clear when do the diagonals bisect each other, when are the diagonals perpendicular, right? So you have some idea but not a full-fledged idea of certain properties, which means that what you need to do is you need to understand which statements you marked incorrectly and then figure out which properties of quadrilaterals you need to strengthen, right? It's not that you need to go through the entire concept. If you know the concepts of area and perimeter, you don't really need to go through that part. All you need to do is understand which statements you got incorrect, and then accordingly build your conceptual understanding only in those, bridge your gaps only as they pertain to those concepts, and revise those from concept file quadrilaterals. And luckily for everyone here, regardless of whether you are e-GMAT subscriber or not, e-GMAT student or not, you have access to this on your in your free trial. So you can bridge all your gaps as they pertain to conceptual understanding from this file. Now, folks who are in group C, which is pretty big segment here, you need to build your conceptual clarity. So access the file quadrilaterals and build your conceptual ability. Okay. So with this feedback here, what do you guys think? What do you guys think about the feedback that you've gotten from this? Are you surprised to get are you surprised to hear this feedback? And let me remove the polls here. What do you think? Does this feedback make sense? Write in the short answer poll. I want to hear feedback is accurate. Okay. Have you ever gotten this level of precise feedback on a topic which is as small as quadrilaterals? Again, quadrilaterals is a very, very small topic, right, in the entire scheme of quant. Have you ever gotten this level of feedback? And let me ask this question: have you ever gotten this level of feedback, or have you ever seeked this level of feedback? Yeah, and that is, again, this is the feedback that I'm giving you only when it as it pertains to quadrilaterals. Imagine as you access Quant 2.0 course, you are going to get this feedback in each and every module, regardless of whether it's a module in geometry, whether it's a module in algebra, and I'm going to give you an example of the feedback that you're going to get if you access the 2D2 module that pertains to quadrilaterals and circles. Okay, what you're going to see over here is you're going to take not one but two diagnostic tests, right? And the way we did your skill assessment using those three questions, that's kind of what you that was a very specific example of what you're going to see in the GMAT skill diagnostics. And then likewise, as you go through the concept diagnostic, you are going to get further feedback as to whether you should be going through all the concept files here. There are 3 concept files here, or can you skip a certain file? This is the level of feedback that you get as you start any specific module in the Quant 2.0 course. Okay, for example, this student over here, he answered questions 5 to 6 correctly, which means that he does not need to go through both concepts 2 and 3. Okay, he doesn't need to go through those, but because he demonstrated lack of understanding in quite a few questions here, he will need to go through concept number 1. So you're going to get this precise feedback at concept level so that you can personalize the course based on the feedback that you get. Okay, no tutor can do that without spending hours and hours with you, but the platform over here is ready. That's going to take your, that's going to give you these quizzes and then give you the feedback right there and then, so that you can be on your way to first bridge those conceptual gaps and then move on to looking at the process skills, building your process skills. Okay, now that feedback is very important. Now let's do a quick concept recap. Again, I'm not going to be teaching you these concepts because that's not the intent of this session. What I'm going to do is highlight certain concepts which will help you in solving the questions that you're going to see in this session. Okay, so I want you to look at, just one second here. Yeah, so I want you to look at this part over here, concepts pertaining to sides. Over here, again, trapezium, one pair of opposite sides is parallel. Again, I don't want to read through this. You need to be absolutely clear about the properties as they pertain to sides of quadrilaterals. Again, angles, parallelogram, opposite angles are equal. Rhombus, opposite angles are equal. In rectangle and square, each angle is 90 degrees. Diagonals. Now, these are properties that you will be utilizing. You have already experienced those questions. So let's understand these properties really well so that when you solve these questions again, as you build your process skills, you need to extract retrieve appropriate concepts. So for parallelogram, the diagonals are not equal. They bisect each other. Okay. For rhombus, they are not equal, they bisect each other. So the properties of parallelogram continues over here for the rhombus. In addition, they are perpendicular to each other. Okay, and that's the same thing that happens in a square as well. Okay, now in a rectangle, again, both the diagonals are now equal, and they obviously bisect each other as well, because the property of parallelogram is going to continue with rectangle as well. But with rectangle now, both the diagonals are equal. That was not the case with the parallelogram. Okay, for the square, again, both the diagonals are equal, and you know as to what that is. It's square root of 2 times the side. They bisect each other and they're perpendicular to each other. Okay, now for now, those of you who are not very familiar with these concepts pertaining to diagonals, make a note of this so that you can apply these properties appropriately in the questions. The key thing is that for a parallelogram, they bisect each other, but they are not equal. They're equal only when you get to rectangle and square. Okay, now for a quadrilateral, what can you say about the diagonals? Nothing much. Okay, they don't bisect each other in the quadrilateral, right? So these are the properties that you need to keep in mind. As far as area and perimeter, again, as you go through the quadrilaterals concept file, which is available to you in the free trial as well, you will be able to learn everything about these properties. Why do the diagonals behave the way they do? Why does the area behave the way, how is it that you arrive at these formulas? You're going to learn all of that so that you don't have to memorize any of this. This will become your innate understanding relating to the quadrilaterals. Okay, now with this, understanding, we are now going to start building your process skills. Are you all ready for it? Yes, no? Okay. Okay, now again, I'm going to give you these questions, one question at a time this time around, and I want you to solve each question. And let's get the poll here as well. Okay, here you go. Okay, let's click on still solving. Okay, go ahead and solve this question. All right, I'm going to end the poll now. All right. How was this question? Let's understand the step-by-step process for solving this question. Area of square ABCD is equal to the area of rectangle PQRS. If the length of rectangle PQRS is 21% more than its breadth, I want you to just focus on this sentence. Forget about the question. Just focus on this sentence and tell me what is the relationship between the length A and the breadth B of the rectangle PQRS. Just process this statement, standalone. And then, and I'm going to ask you, so let me get the question as well for this one. Okay, here you go. Tell me, which is the correct choice here? Okay, I had broadcast results on again. I apologize. Okay, so A is equal to 1.21b. Absolutely. So essentially what you're doing over here is you're simply translating the information that's given to you in the question statement. Now, how many of you are not comfortable doing such translations? Select yes if you are not comfortable doing such translations. Okay, So good that you being so honest here. Really nice. Okay. If you're not confident doing such translations, then you need to build this skill. And for this, we have dedicated a complete module in word problem section in which we talk about how is it that you should translate information such as this one. Okay. So definitely, even before you get started with geometry, you should build this skill set of translation, because that's going to be very, very important in geometry. Okay, so complete module focused on translations. Okay, so let's move on to the next step now. Now, whenever I solve any geometry related question, because there's so much of information provided in the question statement, I always tabulate my information. Why? Because that helps me organize the information really well. How many of you do such tabulation? Regardless of whether the question is a geometry question or not, how many of you utilize such tabulation techniques? Okay, so I see some of you do, many of you do not. Again, this is also a very, very important skill, which we, again, because it's so important, we have created a full-blown module in word problem section, and that module is called visualization. Okay, you visualize the data in appropriate pictorial format so that you can organize the data, so that you can draw appropriate inferences from that data. So again, if you don't typically do this, that would be something which I would strongly recommend that you start doing. And in order to learn how to use visualization techniques, go through word problems, a module that pertains to visualization. Now let's come back to this question. Area of square ABCD is equal to the rectangle area PQRS. Now from that, again, we are translating and we are saying S squared is equal to 1.21 B squared. Okay, now in this case, what we are then saying is S is equal to 1.1 B. Now, if you are not comfortable doing this translation, doing this processing, that means you need to work on your calculation skill set. Okay, how many of you are not comfortable taking S squared is equal to 1.21 B squared and saying S is equal to 1.1 B? If you're all very comfortable, well and good, then you don't need to go through that module. But if you are not comfortable how to process decimals, if you make mistakes as 1.21 B squared as 111 B, then yes, those are mistakes that you should not do. Do not classify those mistakes as silly mistakes. Build the appropriate conceptual understanding, which is how do you handle squares and roots, how do you process decimals, and all that is covered in our Quant Basics course. Okay, now there's a constraint here. S is equal to negative 1.1 B is not possible because sides are always positive. Now, given that, what we needed to figure out was ratio of perimeter of ABCD to perimeter of PQRS. You simply pick up the values from your table and you apply the formula, appropriate formula, and then you do simplification and you get 220 over 221 as the answer. Now, let me see. Let's look at, so choice B is the correct answer. Now let's see how many of you got this question correct. Only 33% of the class got this question correct. Now, given the solution that you see, tell me, was there any individual step that was difficult for you? So write down why is it, for those of you, again, only 1/3 of the class got this question correct. Okay, and I'm assuming that the third of the class that got this question correct got it correct for the right reasons. So tell me, where is it that you faltered in this question? I can definitely say that folks who selected choice C, 5 of you did not do appropriate translation. Okay, so you were not able to write down that what you needed was perimeter of ABCD to perimeter of PQRS. Okay, and that's a translation issue. Okay, so tell me, where is it that you guys faltered? Too quick for me. I can't really process correctly at this rate. Okay, so this means that you need to build on your process skills. That's a feedback that I'm giving you here, that you need to go through the process skill files once you solidify your concepts, so that you take one question at a time. Okay, not enough time, unable to apply the concept on this question, didn't know how to translate length of rectangle to square. Okay, everything went so quickly. All right, so for those of you who are facing issues with the speed over here, that the feedback to you is that again, individually these questions are not complicated at all. But if you are having problems with the pace at which we are solving the question here, this means that you need to build your translation ability. So definitely go through the word problems module in which we teach you how to translate information. Another thing is there are quite a few variables that you need to work with here. How many of you get scared of looking at the variables? Just look at this. The only one number that's given to you is 21%. Rest everything is in terms of variables. So how many of you find it difficult to handle questions that contain so many variables? Handling so many variables can be complicated for certain students, right? So for that, again, go through the word problems module, because there we teach you how do you translate when there are variables, how do you assume variables. So a lot of problems that you are facing in geometry may not be linked to geometry at all. And that's the reason why it's very important to identify why is it that you're not able to answer a question correctly. Okay? Now, for those of you who have understood this question, and I understand not everyone has gotten this question well. Why? Because there are certain other skill sets that are lacking. So for those students, I would recommend that you take that feedback. Okay. But for those of you who have understood this question, let's look at how would you apply the understanding from this question and solve and apply it on the 700 level question. Okay, so let's move on to this one. Now observe that each of the statements that you see here, they are very similar. I mean, it's essentially giving you a scenario. So again, you need to translate correctly. Okay, and this translation has nothing to do with the conceptual understanding of geometry. It's a process skill that you need to build. How do you translate information? Okay, how many of you are comfortable handling percentages like this? Decreased by 10%, increased by 10%. How many of you are comfortable doing that? Okay, now again, these things should be you should be very comfortable with this, because you cannot be spending time in creating your percent equations. When you look at decreased by 10%, you should automatically write down your variable A is equal to 0.9b. Okay, you shouldn't really say, okay, B minus 10% of B and then do that processing. That's the level of agility that you need to have. How many of you have that level of agility? Because again, a lot of you are saying that it's too time consuming. Okay, again, each of these individual steps lead to the increased time that you take to solve questions. Okay, which is why you have to recognize where is it that you're taking this long, and then go ahead and fix that problem. How can you fix this percent issue problem? You can fix it by going through the Quant Basics course, in which we have one full module dedicated to percent. Then you have one full module dedicated to how do you handle percentages in the context of word problems. Okay, again, identifying why is it that you're taking long is going to help you solve questions correctly. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm just trying to think, how many of you want to take another stab at this question? Again, given where you're at, yeah, you want to take another stab at this question? Okay, all right. So let's go through this. Applying data sufficiency process. Again, you have to be very clear with the data sufficiency process. So for that, okay, do thorough question statement analysis. Very, very important. Okay, know exactly what you want from the statement. So before you even take a look at the individual statements, you need to do detailed question statement analysis. Then you look at whether statement 1 alone gets you your answer. If yes, then you eliminate choices B, C, and E. If no, then you eliminate choices A, D. How many of you are comfortable with this process that you see here? Okay, then forget about statement 1 and see if statement 2 alone gets your answer, and then eliminate choices appropriately. Okay, so I'm going to give you this poll here. Go ahead and solve this question. Question number 1, retake. Click on still solving, please. Okay, go ahead and solve this one. Okay, I'm going to end this poll now. I can see that there are a few of you who are still responding. So just mark your answers. Okay, so let's broadcast the results here. And I'm going to show you both the polls. I'm going to broadcast both the results. This is the one that you see on your left hand side is your first attempt at solving this question as a class. As the one that you see on, sorry, on the left hand side is the first attempt, the retake is on the right hand side. And you can see the correct answer is choice C. And I'm going to walk you through the solution for this question, but you can see how more folks are now have now selected choice C as compared to the other choices. Okay, so the accuracy of this question has definitely improved. Now I would like to, so I'll present the solution to you. I understand not everyone has selected the correct answer, but the key thing is that there has been marked improvement in the ability to solve this question. Okay, now for those of you who have not answered this question correctly, let me walk you through the solution, and I want you to identify which process steps you have faltered at, so that I can give you feedback on how to fix those steps. Okay, fix those missteps. Okay, all right, let's look at this. What is the cost to fence a rectangular plot at the rate of $20 per meter? Now, what is it that you need to figure out? What property of rectangle would you need to figure out in order to find out the cost to fence? It is the perimeter, absolutely, right? So that's your translation. You're inferring that when you're fencing, you need the boundary. If you need the boundary, you need the perimeter. Now, cost to fence will be what? Perimeter times $20, which means that what you really need to find out is the sum of A and B, right? Which means you either need to know the individual values of A and B, or you need to know the value of the sum of A and B without knowing individually what A and B are. Okay, so that's the takeaway that we have. That's what we understand from the question statement. How many of you were able to draw both of those inferences? That what we need is either values of A and B or values of A plus B. Okay, good. Again, that's a very important thing with data sufficiency questions. Now, I want you to answer this question. Okay, hold on here. 5 choices here. So answer this question now. From statement 1, what is it that we are able to get? Are we able to get values of both length A and B, both length and width? Are we able to get a linear equation between A and B, or are we able to get value of A, or are we able to get A plus B? Tell me, what did your analysis indicate? Okay, I'm going to end the poll here. So for those of you who say value of B, you're absolutely correct. Okay, so which means that your analysis of statement 1 was spot on. For those of you, and 45% of the class did not select choice 4, which means that there's some mistake that you did in analysis of statement 1. So let's understand what was that mistake. Okay, so again, visualize the information in your table. Organize your table appropriately. If the length of the plot is increased by 10 meters, so you right now assume the initial length A and B, your new length will be A plus 10. The area of the plot increases by 10 square meter, by 100 square meters, which means that the relationship between new area and original area is linked using this equation here. New area is equal to original area plus 100. Now you take the information from the table with regards to the area, you put in that information here and you process this information. What you get is B is equal to 10. You have no information about A, which means that statement 1 is insufficient. So tell me, 45% of the class that did not get statement 1 analysis correct, where did you falter? What process step did you falter? Because that's the kind of analysis that you need to do when you review the solution for the questions that you get wrong. Okay, for those of you who got this question right, you should also make sure that you answered this question for the right reasons. So tell me, where is it that you faltered in this question? Did not substitute AB for area. Okay. What else? 45% of you did not get this question right. Okay, so tell me, which step did you falter at? So if you are asking things about an alternate process, please put that question in the Q&A pod. Okay. Did a small error while calculation. What kind of error? Very important to understand what kind of error. Did not substitute properly. So now is this did not substitute AB for area and did not substitute properly. These are process skills that you need to build for geometry type questions. That is, you need to understand how do you translate in the context of geometry. So if you are comfortable as such handling your variables in context of other word problems, then the thing that you need to work on is how do you translate in the context of geometry. Okay, very important. Now again, think about it. By itself, you know what area of a rectangle is, but you're not able to apply that understanding when you're solving such questions, which means you need to work on your process skills bit by bit. Okay, and that is what we do when we take you through the course. You first understand the concepts, then you apply those concepts in the context of easier questions. Okay, then you come to the GMAT level questions. Okay, but as you observe here, individually none of these steps are difficult, right? There is no rocket science here, right? Okay, now let's take a look at statement 2. Again, over here, similar stuff. If length of the plot is decreased by 10% and the width is increased by 10%, you need to be very, very fluent in writing new length as 0.9a and new width as 1.1b. You cannot be taking time to process these steps, okay? And that's where the conceptual clarity comes about, and that's where those basic modules of how do you handle percentages, how do you write down the increase and the decrease and all that stuff really comes in very, very handy. So you need to build those initial skills before you even come to these questions, okay? Now, the perimeter decreases by 5%. Again, nu is equal to 95 by 100. You should be able to answer that right away. Okay, you need to be able to write that right away. Okay, and then you simply process the information. What you get over here is relationship between A and B. It's ratio of A and B, which is again not sufficient because what you need is the actual values of the sum of A and B. Okay, but now when you put both the statements together, what you get is B is equal to 10, and you have an equation between A and B, which means you can find the value of A, which means you can find the value of A plus B. Okay, so choice C is the correct answer. Okay, now there's one student who had posted who's posted this thing, alternate approach. We don't see that in the Q&A pod, so make sure that you're posting your alternate approach in the Q&A pod. Okay, all right, so okay, let's solve question 1a now. Okay, I'm going to show you question 1a solution. Okay, what question, the other version of this question, what did that say? The perimeter of the plot increases by 50%, right? That's what was given. And observe, as you process this information, okay, you are able to get a unique value of A plus B, which now makes statement A sufficient. Okay, statement 1 sufficient, which means choice A is the correct answer. All right, now again, what was so special about this question? The other version of this question, again, the emphasis on doing thorough question statement analysis. That is what was really specific about this question. Had you not done detailed analysis of the original statement, you would not have concluded that even just knowing A plus B is even just knowing the value of A plus B would be sufficient to answer this question. Okay, all right, let's now move to our next question. Again, this one is your process skill question for question number 2 in this section here. Okay, so I'm going to give you the poll. Okay, so can you please click on still solving? All right, last few seconds. Please put in your answers. All right, I'm going to end the poll now. So the correct answer is choice C. So let's go through this one here. So again, we're going to take step by step and we're going to visualize or apply the appropriate process skills to solve this question. The length of a rectangle is 9 centimeters more than its width. So again, we know we need to do translation here, and the area of the rectangle is 90 centimeters square. What is the distance in centimeter between the center of the rectangle and its vertex? So when you look at this question, this thing here, let me ask you the question. Which figure represents the distance as represented in the shaded portion of the question statement? So let's answer this question here. I'm going to show you the poll. Tell me which figure represents what is being asked. Absolutely, choice number C. Absolutely, good. Okay, now let's move further. So what we need to figure out is the distance, and that is going to be half of the diagonal. Okay, and we know that this is a rectangle. Now, what do we know about diagonals in a rectangle? That diagonals bisect each other, and then these diagonals are equal. So technically, we can take either of these two diagonals and get to our answer. So what we need to know is OA, and OA is equal to half of AC, and AC is what we need to find. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going to retrieve our Pythagoras theorem, and we are going to now say that what we AC squared is equal to P squared plus Q squared. Right? So what do we know about P and Q? What we know is P is equal to 9 plus Q and PQ is equal to 90. So we have two equations and we can solve both these equations to find the value of Q. Now observe, when we get this quadratic equation in Q, we get two solutions, negative 15 and 6. There we apply our understanding of the constraints and we say that, okay, Q cannot be equal to negative 15. Q is equal to 6, which means P is equal to 15, right? And then we essentially get value of AC. AC squared is 261. Now, AC is equal to square root of 261. How do you solve this? How do you calculate the square root? Okay, do you need to do all the detailed calculations? No. For this, what you do is you take hints from the answer choices. Observe the answer choices. Answer choices have either square root of 13 or square root of 29, right? So you try to express 261 as a multiple of 13 or 29. So there you get your starting point so that you don't have to think how to express 261, right? So that's what you do. 261 is equal to 29 times 9. 3 comes out of the square root, and the correct answer here is OA is equal to half of 3 into square root of 29. Choice C is the correct answer. So now tell me, where is it that you faltered in this question? Only 30% of the class got this question correct. So where is it that you faltered in this question? And I'm going to broadcast the results. 40% of the class got this question correct. Did not divide by 2 at the end. Okay. Again, when does that happen? Do not consider this as a silly mistake. Okay. Why did you not divide by 2 at the end? Because you did not make a note of what exactly it is that you need to find out. Okay, you always need to write down the final thing that you need to calculate so that at the end you don't end up making mistakes. Okay, I forgot to solve for the value of W before looking for the hypotenuse and it took too long. Okay, so for this then the issue is not concepts, it's really retrieving the appropriate concepts in the context of your questions. Okay, so again, building process skills. Did not finish calculation at the end. So then what you need to work on is building your ability to do such calculations. So these are such you need to start taking cues from the answer choices. Okay, and if calculations is something that you're having a hard time with, then I would strongly recommend going through the Quant Basics course so that you understand the various techniques to do such calculations. Okay, one of the techniques that I just showed you was taking help from the answer choices, right? Taking cues from there. Again, not plugging the answer choices, but taking cues from the answer choices so that you get a starting point for your calculations. Okay, got 10 and -1 instead of 15 and -6. That's your quadratic equations. You need to focus on making sure that you know how to solve quadratic equations. So that's your algebra. Okay, now again, observe all of these various concepts and process skills are utilized to solve a single question in geometry. So you cannot take geometry in isolation. Okay, you need to understand where is it that you're faltering. You need to then build those skill sets and then come back to such questions. Okay. All right. So now let's tell me, how is it that all of this feedback that I'm giving you based on which step you're faltering at, does this make sense? Is that helping you get better insights into your preparation, into your current level? Is that helping you, figure out what is it that you need to be working on? A little bit more elaborate answers, please. So as you type there, we are now going to every question has a new problem I face. Absolutely. And that's the key thing. Don't consider question just as a single question. Consider every question to give you a list of issues that you see. Okay, it's informative. That's really nice. And again, this is the level of analysis that you should do whenever you take a look at a question. Now again, solving quant questions, they can be more than one ways to solve a quant question, right? So again, the solution that we present, you need to look at that solution and see what is, if you were to solve the question using that method, what all skill set would you need to build? And again, each question, utilize each question as that learning opportunity. Okay, to build your conceptual understanding, to build your skill set. Okay, and that's the reason, again, each and every question in Quant 2.0 course is built with a certain intent in mind. As you can see, this question number 2 there was a reason why I gave you this process skill question before showing you the next question. Okay, so now I'm going to give you another chance to solve question number 2, a data sufficiency question. Okay, so let's look at that now. I'm going to give you another opportunity here to solve this question and do apply the understanding that you have gained from the question that you just solved. Okay, and and I'm going to give you one hint here. Okay, observe that what you have over here is a quadrilateral. Okay, observe that and then proceed with solving this question. So let's now get to take another stab at this question. Okay. Very nice. I'm going to end the poll now. Broadcast the results. I'm really happy with the performance of the class here. So what you see on the left hand side is your previous attempt, and there only 35% of the class selected choice A. But now 54% of class has selected choice B. Choice B is the correct answer. So now that percentage has increased. Okay, so I'm really happy. And if you notice, there were quite a few of you who were not able to solve this question, but this time around, whoever tried to solve was able to select the answer. So good. Now, has your understanding improved? Tell me. What has led to the change in your approach in this question? Let's solve this, and then maybe then you can answer. In the quadrilateral ABCD, again, we have point E, we have the value of AB. Good. Now, what we need to figure out is AB greater than BC? Now, because quadrilateral is given to us and we are dealing with diagonals here, there's no special linkage between the diagonals of a quadrilateral. So there's nothing more that we can do with that, okay? Now what we need to figure out is AB greater than BC? So we need a definite yes or a definite no, right? So again, the concept that you had to retrieve over here was that properties of diagonals of different types of diagonals. And again, how, if you assumed from the figure, how many of you assumed from the image that it's a rectangle? For those of you who selected choice A as the correct answer, did you assume that it's what's given to you is a rectangle? Okay, if you did, then that's a mistake. Okay, do not assume anything from the image unless it is explicitly stated. Okay, so EC is 5 centimeters. What we can all we can figure out from there is that AE plus EC is equal to AC. That's it. Okay, there's nothing else that we can figure out from there. Okay, and because we don't know anything else about the quadrilateral ABCD, we cannot really process EC is equal to 5 centimeters in any other way. So if you assume that it was a rectangle because the image looks as if it's a rectangle, then that's a wrong thing to do. Okay, now if the image had that that right angle presented, then you could have assumed, then you could have inferred that it's a rectangle, but you cannot assume that it's a rectangle. Again, you should have seen a right angle uh, in all the four rectangles, in all the four angles there. Okay. Now, statement number 2, the perimeter of AEB is greater than the perimeter of BEC, and all interior angles of ABCD are right angles. Now, when you look at statement 2, you can infer that ABCD is a rectangle. Okay. Now you take that information by drawing that inference from this information about the interior angles. You take that inference and then you essentially proceed. Now you retrieve the concepts pertaining to diagonals of a rectangle. What you get is that diagonals bisect each other. AE is equal to EC and BE is equal to ED. And that's when you essentially do the processing of the perimeter. Now, when you're doing processing of the perimeter, again, you write down your perimeter in the appropriate triangle segments there. And then what you get is, again, your green entities will get cancelled out because they are all equal. And from there, you get to the point that AB is greater than BC, and which means that statement 2 is sufficient. Okay. So now tell me, for those of you, again, I'm very happy with the performance of this class here for this question. How many of you selected choice B for the right reasons? Again, I've gone through the solution with you. How many of you have selected choice B for the right reasons? Okay. Now, for people who faltered, where did you falter? Some of you assumed that it was a rectangle. Where else did you falter? Now, another thing over here is when you're doing perimeter processing, you need to do that manipulation, right? So you have to get comfortable with taking very with taking such inequalities and then processing them further so that you can derive such linkages. Okay, that's very important. Okay. All right. So again, having that complete conceptual understanding is very important to draw appropriate inferences. Okay, these inferences are what take you from one step of the solution to the next step of the solution, and if you make one incorrect inference, that will definitely derail you from the path to the right solution. Okay, now again, a very important thing from this question: do not assume from the figures. Okay, be very, you should not put, you should not assume, you need to infer, and very important thing. Okay. All right. AE is equal to EC is equal to 5. Well, AE was not given as EC, right? This thing was not given. So again, what you assumed was that diagonals bisect each other. Again, you drew that assumption from the figure, and that wasn't correct. Okay. All right, now what does it take to score a Q50? We've gone through two data sufficiency questions, rather three data sufficiency questions, and we've gone through conceptual feedback. We've gone through the ability to apply those process skills, right? So each of these three entities is important for you to get to that Q50, a clarity, 200% clarity in doing each of these three things. Okay, now conceptual learning, I'm going to show you all of this in the context of 2D2 module, which is the third module in the geometry course. And again, part of this module from here to here is available to you in the free trial as well. So what you'll see is that you first master your conceptual understanding. You first go through concept 1 pertaining to quadrilaterals, and then you go through concepts 1 and 2 and 3 pertaining to circles. Okay, now after you do build your conceptual understanding, after every section of conceptual understanding, what you have is building your process skills. You build your process skills with these process skill learning activity, okay, and then applying those learnings on practice quizzes. So you learn and then you cement that understanding through the practice quizzes. You get that feedback whether you have learned appropriately or not. Similar thing here, you learn the next set of concepts over here, and then you learn process skills. How do you apply those concepts in the context of process skills, and then you get feedback. Okay, and then GMAT skill learning. After you go through the process skills, you then apply those process skills on difficult GMAT level questions. Okay, so essentially learning content in this progressive manner, going from concepts to process to GMAT skills, exactly what we have done in this session, taking one question at a time. That's how you basically build your ability to solve GMAT level questions. Okay, and Quant 2.0 is a solution to that Q49 plus scores regardless of your starting level, whether you are a novice, whether you are a pro. Okay, in fact, since we started launching this course, we finished the launch of this course in May of this year, but we started launching modules from January of this year, and since that time we have seen that more and more students are able to get to that Q49 plus scores by using Quant 2.0 course, even with the partial launch of course. Now this is the data. You can see the comparative number of Q49 plus scores reported on GMAT Club. So you can see that comparison over here across all the competitors. But now this is the data from January to July of 21. Okay, you see 104 49 plus stories reported for e-GMAT versus 31 for target test prep, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you can see how much the Quant 2.0 has influenced the success of students. Okay. All right. Now, I want to understand what is your current score here. Very important. So let me get a poll so that I can get the sense of where this class is at with regards to their current scores in quant. Okay, let me broadcast the results now. So there, there are some of you who are under Q43, okay? Then there are some who are between Q43 and 47, and then some between 48 and 49. Now, it's very, very obvious that each one of you needs a unique solution. One size fit all does not work. Okay, so what you need is a separate course for each one of you, depending upon what your starting abilities are and depending upon how fast you learn. Now, if you think about this in the context of the geometry course, there are 76 learning activities, which means 40 hours of content. Now, a Q30 student would need all these 76 activities. That's very obvious. A Q45 student may need only 30 activities, right? And a Q49 student may need only 12 activities. And again, you see people in all throughout the spectrum. You have students. Again, each student has his or her unique need. That is where you need different courses for each one of these different students. Okay, so depending upon your ability, you need different courses, and that's where the expert AI comes into picture. You take 2-layer fine-grained diagnostics before you start any module, before you start learning any content in any module, and these diagnostics tell you exactly what it is that you need to learn and what is it that you do not need to learn. Both of these are very, very important because ultimately you have only a finite amount of time that you can invest in preparing for your GMAT. You don't have infinite time, right? You have your professional careers to manage, you have your personal life to balance, right? So you need to spend your time learning what it is that you need to learn. That is where we have invested so much of effort in creating these diagnostics, okay? Now, once you take the diagnostics, what you get to see is how you have different learning paths per module and how you get 625 courses, unique courses in just geometry course, which means that each one of you will be serviced appropriately, will be provided his or her unique course based on your individual ability. Okay, very, very important. So whenever you're thinking about the course, think about, do I get the course that is right for me, that is personalized to me? Okay. Now, when you're studying, we have learned that, okay, you need to build your conceptual understanding, process skills, GMAT skills. We know that you need to have a unique course dedicated to you. Now, as you're going through that course, how do you know that you have excelled in that course? For that, you need to get that feedback. You need to be evaluated at the right points. You need to be given feedback at the right points so that you can correct your mistakes right there and then. Okay, so every learning activity needs to provide that personalized feedback. That's an absolute must. Okay, which is where again expert AI, which powers Quant 2.0 course, evaluates your performance for each and every learning activity. It evaluates various aspects, not just a single aspect, whether you've accessed the concept, whether you've completed the concept, whether you've spent sufficient time on the concept, and whether you've scored below threshold or above threshold. Accordingly, it tells you, have you learned perfectly? Do you need selective revision? Do you need to redo? Okay, and it is this expert architecture that led Varun to his score of Q49. Expert architecture optimized the course for the very short time I had, and that's a real problem, right? The diagnostics told me the activities I had to focus on. The feedback told me where I had to revise. So it's not just knowing what you have to study. It's also you may not be able to get to your the exact level of learning in the first go itself. So you need that feedback to tell you where to revise. I was able to improve to Q49 even though I had no time to go through Scholaranium, and Scholaranium is what gives you cementing, stage 2 of preparation. Anand scored a Q49. In Quant, the diagnostics told me that I needed to focus on GMAT skills and process skill files in algebra and geometry. So Anand didn't need to focus on concepts, so he didn't spend his time there. With this architecture, it does not matter where you are in your preparation. You start at the right point and you're able to track your improvement. Very important. As you're spending those hours, you know, those 20 hours every week, you need to get feedback that are you headed in the right direction or not. That's something that you must have. Dipinti, she got a Q50. The quant course cleared my concepts and told me how to apply them on GMAT questions. In both official and Sigma X mocks, I consistently scored Q50 after completing the course. Okay, so again, you can watch each one of these stories by clicking on the YouTube link here, and I will share these links with you as well. So now let's continue improving your process skills. Any feedback till now? Any inputs till now? As we go into our last question set, tell me, what is it that you have taken away from the session till now? All right, let's get some people to write here. Process skills, yeah. I have been talking for quite some time now, so I think I can expect some responses from you. Okay, good translation of a question, definitely improving my process skills. All right, don't assume information from the figures. Okay, so let's now, importance of not making assumptions based on the picture. Good. Okay, so I'm going to now ask you the last question here. Okay, give me 1 second here. Just moving some panes around. Okay, let's click on still solving, please. Go ahead and solve this question. All right, I'm going to end the poll now. Put in your answers, please. Okay. Good going. 62% of you answered this question correctly. So let's breeze through it and make sure that those of you who did not, we are able to understand why is it that you didn't solve the question correctly. So let's look into this. A border of uniform width is placed around a square photograph. So again, as you read the information, you need to write down what it is, square photograph, and then uniform border of uniform width is placed. So you make the width there, you make the border there, and then you essentially start to populate your figure. What you end up getting is a square. The area, what you need to figure out is the area of the border. Now how can you find the area of the border? You take the area of the entire section and you remove the area of the square photograph, and you end up getting the area of the border, right? And again, what you get from this entire picture is that the photo with the border is also a square. And now you start to tabulate this information, and what you get is that area is again, you get area of the square photo, you get the area of the photo with the border. Now you simply do the processing and you're able to get 4p into p plus n as the final answer. Okay, so tell me, for those of you who were not able to solve this question correctly, who did not select choice E as the answer, where did you falter? Very important to understand, where did you falter? Simplification, okay. So again, see how you are now able to identify what process skill you faltered at. If you faltered at simplification step here, then this means that you need to look at quant basics. We cover simplification as a process skill in quant basics as well as in algebra module 1. Okay, very important. So that's the skill set you need to build. Okay, if you faltered at visualization, then you need to stay in geometry course and you need to build your visualization skills in the context of quadrilaterals here, right? So you need to go through the entire process skill learning activity so that you start to apply this level of understanding. You start to visualize. So again, there are certain process skills which you need to build in the context of the subsection itself. There's certain process skills like simplification in this case that you need to build as a process skill itself, regardless of the context. Again, quant basics and algebra module 1 will help you with that. Okay, so very important to understand that. So again, translate information bit by bit, visualize, infer, simplify the calculations. Okay. Okay. Now, if you can post this comment in the Q&A pod, I would truly appreciate that. I will then be able to take this, because this is a general strategy type question. I will be able to take that towards the end of this session. Okay. Now let's come back to this question, and I'm going to have you guys retake this question here. So click on still solving, please. Apply your understanding of how you approach the previous question. Okay. And then solve this question, please. All right, last few seconds. Okay, I'm going to end this poll here. This is an interesting question, interesting performance here. So I would say this, the reason why the accuracy of this question is still not as high as I would want it to be is because I believe it's because of doing appropriate level of processing of the question statement. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Um, the length of rectangle R is A. What is, okay, let's proceed here. You have a uniform width of W here, right? Now you're creating rectangle S, and rectangle S is the bigger rectangle. So you are tabulating all the information. You get perimeter in terms, perimeter of rectangle R in terms of A and B, and perimeter of rectangle S in terms of A, B, and W. So there are three variables that you're dealing with. Now what's given is the difference between the two perimeters. So you process that information, okay? And what you arrive at the end is the value of the width. So you have actually gotten the width of the border that was placed. So now you have length in terms of A, breadth in terms of B for rectangle S as well. Okay, now what is it that you have to figure out? You need to find out the perimeter of S, which means you need to know the sum of A plus sum of A and B. How many of you were able to get to this point of the solution? Answer state analysis of question statement. How many of you were able to say that what you need is the value of A plus B? So this was the level of analysis that was required. Now when you take a look at statement 1, the area of border is 52 square units. Again, you simply take those values that you've already arrived at in your table, and then you process the information. And when you process the information, you get A plus B value, which means that statement A is sufficient. Now only 7 of you people who selected choices A and D, only 7 of you considered statement A to be sufficient. So now tell me, where did all the others who found statement 1 to be not sufficient, where did you falter? What did you not do? Because the stuff that you did incorrectly and the stuff that you did not do will be the feedback that you get. That's the skill, or that's the concept that you need to build upon. In terms of concepts now, there's nothing much here, just area here, right? So tell me, why did you feel that statement 1 was not sufficient? Didn't analyze the question stem properly. Absolutely. I knew that. And that's again a very, very important thing. In DS questions, analysis of the question stem is the most important thing. Required a lot of computation and did not have enough time. Now again, this is not really a lot of computation. So if you felt this was overwhelming for you, then you need to spend some time in the Quant Basics course, and you need to learn how to process variables. Okay, that's very important. Okay. Where is 4 coming from? Again, observe here. There's 4 here. There's 4 into B, 4 into A, right? 4 into A and 4 into B. That's where the 4 is coming from. Okay, don't think about smart numbers. No, that those techniques don't work all the time. They work only for some specific types of questions. You need to understand how to process variables. You need to understand how to process expressions. For that, in Quant Basics, go through how to process numerical expressions in Algebra Module 1. Learn how to process algebraic expressions. That's the skill that you need to build. Okay. All right. Now, Yes, 4 is the border, 2 plus 2. Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, so we already calculated from the initial, from the question statement analysis, that width is 2. That is why a plus 4. And again, this is something that we already calculated in the question statement itself, that the rectangle S has dimensions a plus 4 and b plus 4. Okay. Now, statement 2. Now, more people felt that statement 2 was sufficient, and if you observe, there's quite a bit of processing required in statement 2 as well. What's given is that if S can also be obtained if each of the longer sides of R is increased by 80% and each of the shorter sides of R is increased by 100%. So here we've assumed that A is the longer side and B is the shorter side. Again, you could have assumed the other way around as well. It does not matter. Ultimately, what we need is the sum of A and B. Right? So you do that processing, and then what you arrive at is you already know the border, so you can actually get the unique values of A and B, which means that A plus B can be determined. So again, statement 2 is also sufficient. Okay. So nothing new in this question as well. Apply the process skills in a consistent manner, translate information, visualize, infer, simplify. Okay. So what are the next steps to get you to that Q49 plus score? You need to achieve mastery one step at a time. Very important. Focus on one step at a time. In this session, you have gotten a lot of feedback on your conceptual ability as it pertains to quadrilaterals. Very small topic, but you got very specific feedback there, right? You've gotten feedback on your simplification skills. Do you need to master simplification skills as it pertains to numbers, as they pertain to numbers, as they pertain to algebraic expressions? How is it that do you need to master translation and visualization, word problems for that, right? So you've gotten that feedback, or is your skill set really, or do you need to simply sharpen those process skills in the context of geometry? So you've gotten all that feedback. So take that feedback and apply and start going through the quant course, one course at a time, one module at a time. Follow the expert recommended structure. You don't need anybody else to tell you what to do. The course itself, the expert AI tells you how to proceed. What is it that you need to do? It tracks all your improvement. It builds all your personalized courses for you. Master process skills, excel in GMAT skill files. Okay. So again, there are 4 modules in geometry. You do each one at a time. 2-layer diagnostic tests, concept files, process skill files, GMAT skill files in each and every module, expert AI powered feedback. Okay. Now, for those of you who are not as yet convinced that Quant 2.0 is the course for you, I strongly recommend that you take the free trial, evaluate whether this fits your learning style or not, and then make your decision. Okay. In free trial, you are going to experience the 2-layer diagnostics. You are going to experience the concept pertaining to quadrilaterals, and there you can see how the feedback that you got in the concepts today, in today's session, how can you implement that feedback and learn only the appropriate activities. And then you get feedback on what your current conceptual and improved conceptual understanding is. Then you learn the process skills, okay, and then you get feedback on how well you've learned the process skills, and then you come and apply that in the context of GMAT skills through these 2 files here. Okay, so you'll get to experience an entire block in the free trial, and then you get to decide whether this is the right course for you or not. Okay. All right, so with this we have come to the end of this session here. Let me take you to the next part here. So I would want you to put in your feedback here. You can download the session PDF from here. Definitely rate the session. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me at payal@e-gmat.com. Now let me see, are there any questions here? Okay, feel free to post your questions in the Q&A pod, and I will be able to take some of them here while we have a couple more minutes. And if you can put your aha moments from this session in this pod, I would truly appreciate that. By when we will have circle session? Well, we are not going to have any circle session. If you want to learn about circles, that's there in 2D2 module, which is there in the course. Everything is there in the course. So if you like how we dealt with quadrilaterals, definitely subscribe to the course and access those files. Okay. Link e-GMAT.com, and then purchase the course, and then the course will guide you to the geometry course. And if you have any questions, feel free to write to us and we'll help you out there. It's pretty intuitive once you get in the platform. Excited about doing the course? Very well. We are excited to have you in the portal. And definitely, if you have any questions, just send us an email and we'll help you out with it. But with Quant 2.0 course, as long as you're doing everything step by step, start the module, take the diagnostic, understand where is it that what is it that you need to focus on, and what is it that you do not need to focus on. Very important. And then just follow through the course. It's just going to be very, very smooth. And at any point, if you have any questions, whether you're doing something right or not, just write to us at pile@e-gmat.com or support@e-gmat.com. All right, I don't see any questions in the Q&A pod. So with that, we can end this session, and thank you so much for being such an active participant in this session, and good luck. And yeah, see you on e-GMAT. Bye-bye.